Abraham Lincoln, in a message to Congress on July 4th, 1861, wrote that the leading object of government was to, quote, elevate the condition of men, to lift artificial weights from all shoulders, to clear the paths of laudable pursuit for all, to afford all an unfettered start and a fair chance in the race of life. It's no coincidence, Mr. President, that he gave this message on the anniversary of our nation's birth. Lincoln was echoing the profound legacy of our founding, a legacy that shaped our nation and thereafter rippled across not only the Western Hemisphere, but the entire world. When the founders broke off from the yoke of British tyranny, they declared all men to be endowed with certain inalienable rights, rights that come not from the state or a church or any man or woman or even from a government, but rather from God himself. And the first of these inalienable rights was life. Never was any nation in the history of human beings born of a higher principle or a deeper connection to human happiness and flourishing. Here, the people would rule. Here, government would serve the people, and not the other way around. Here, for the first time yet ever, each person, no matter his or her station in life, was endowed with these rights and entitled to their equal protection. Today, some 159 years since Lincoln's message to Congress and 244 years since the founders' message to the world, here we stand, sworn, still, to fulfill their promise. And as far as we've come during that time period, we still have so far to go. Today, our government, founded to protect Americans' rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, threatens unborn Americans on all three counts. The Supreme Court imposes and Congress subsidizes the most radical abortion policy in the Western world. Since 1973, more than 60 million little lives, innocent lives, have been lost. The children lost to abortion cannot be seen, they cannot be heard, but every single one of them is felt. Mothers have been robbed of their children. There are gaping holes left across our nation and in our families and our communities. Gaping holes that only those unique, unrepeatable souls could have and would otherwise have filled. For more than 4 decades, we've failed American women and their unborn children. Today, we have a chance to do better, to aspire for more, not to settle for mediocrity or tyranny, but to celebrate and embrace life and liberty. We have a chance to stand up for the very weakest and most vulnerable among us, the ones still being knit together in their mother's wombs, the ones that we know respond to human touch by the age of 8 weeks, and who feel pain by the age of 20 weeks, who recognize the sound of their mother's voice before they're even born. Now, science and medicine are only confirming what we know deep down, that unborn human beings are, in fact, just like us. Every day, more scientific evidence confirms our moral intuition that a person's a person, no matter how small that person happens to be. And the so-called Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act that was before us earlier this week would have banned abortions for babies more than 20 weeks of age, upholding in law what science already confirms. That is that these babies feel every bit of their life as it's being ended. This should not have been a controversial bill, but still less controversial should have been the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. The Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act takes no position on abortion. And it takes no position even on the rights of the unborn. It simply says that in this country, in the United States of America, when a child is born, even if by accident, even in the most dangerous place in the world for an infant, that is a Planned Parenthood clinic, he or she becomes a citizen of the United States under our Constitution, entitled to the full and equal protection of our laws. It says that when a child intended to be aborted is, in fact, instead born alive, he or she cannot simply be, quote-unquote, disposed of in the back room of a clinic or a hospital, as if it were nothing more than medical waste. This bill merely outlaws the murder of the innocent in the first moments of life, that is, the first moments of life outside the womb. It is a tragedy, and it's a blight and a poor commentary, a frightening reflection, not only upon this country, but on this very legislative body, that these measures failed this week. A minority of this body chose to reject both the scientific facts of human biology and the essential moral principle of human dignity. So when someone talks about not accepting science, I hope they will remember what happened this week. I hope they will remember that against all medical and scientific evidence, to say nothing of what people know morally, intuitively, within their own hearts, that this body failed to protect the most vulnerable among us. Unfortunately, this is not the first time in our nation's history that we have sometimes looked at people according to a really evil logic of utility and power. It's not the first time that we've tried to dehumanize human beings. It's not the first time we've tried to pick and choose who is wanted and who is valuable in society, penuriously doling out rights to exist and to be free on the basis of that arbitrary and unjustifiable determination. Nonetheless, thankfully, if there is one thing that we know about our country, it's that the American people have a way of bending the arc of history toward life. Or as Winston Churchill is credited for saying, the American people will always do the right thing after they've exhausted every other alternative. We have a long, proud history as Americans of standing up for the weak, for the innocent, and especially for the vulnerable. We've made mistakes, grave mistakes. But the right thing to do is always the right thing to do, and we come around in the end. It's one of the things that differentiates us from other societies. We aspire toward that which is good. And today, there is reason to hope. Abortions in my home state of Utah have been steadily declining over the past 4 decades, with fewer than 3,000 happening in 2017. 6 states are now down to just 1 abortion clinic: Kentucky, West Virginia, North Dakota, South Dakota, Mississippi, and Missouri. This past year, Alabama passed a law banning elective abortions in most circumstances. And just last month, hundreds of thousands of Americans marched joyfully once again through Washington, as they have year after year after year, for those who cannot, for those who are rendered absent by this barbaric practice. The tide is turning, Mr. President, and today we have another chance to right these same wrongs. Through my bill, the Abortion is Not Health Care Act, we have the chance to stop the tax deductibility of abortions, which are currently categorized as medical care by the IRS. The purpose of health care is to heal, is to cure. It is not to kill. Let us be serious, Mr. President. Whatever else abortion may be, of course, elective abortion is not health care. That's why physicians literally take an oath to do no harm. The government should not offer tax benefits for a procedure that kills hundreds of thousands of unborn children each year, nor should taxpayers have to subsidize it. This bill would end this preferential tax treatment and clarify that this gruesome practice is not health care. And we also have the chance to permanently stop the use of our foreign aid money from funding or promoting abortions overseas. The Protecting Life in Foreign Assistance Act will save countless lives across the globe and affirms the truth that the lives of all unborn children, regardless of where they might happen to be from, have dignity and worth. Today, we can stand to allow all human beings, no matter what their age, their appearance, or their abilities, a fair chance in the race of life. We have only to remain loyal to that bedrock principle we claim to defend in the Declaration of Independence: the inalienable, fundamental right to life, the equal dignity, the immeasurable worth of all human life.